Before we move to the next part, which is the notification dated 26th of May, is there any conversation which is required from the members on this CP1 to CP5?
Question, which is from Mr. Hari Prasad. He says that is CP5 in addition to other CP forms. It's part of the whole process. I believe that yes, it's now an integration. So some of these forms have been
No,
there.
it's absolutely correct. What Mr. Hari Prasad is saying, the CP5. CP5 is in addition to all other forms, because the CP5 is supposed to be filed every month. It is supposed to be filed every month.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly webinar series. At episode number 165, we are looking at the various changes that we see in the regulations that have been now made in the recent weeks. Over to Anil, sir.
Thank you, Ankit. Good morning, namaste to participants. And as you know, we started a series on asset reconstruction companies, and we had so far done 2 episodes on that, and the third episode was supposed to be done, and then this amendments in fact was notified by IBBI, so it became more important topic and more hot topic. So therefore that the third and fourth episode of asset reconstruction company series, that is slightly shifted. So next episode, that is 166 episode, will be the third part of the ARC structures and the RBI guidelines on that. And also we would try to invite an expert on asset reconstruction companies. So today we are only discussing the May 2025 amendments to CIRP and personal insolvency resolution process regulations. So there were in fact 3 regulations that we are going to discuss in total. One regulation which was notified, one amendment which was notified on 19th of May 2025, that was CIRP regulation, and it was primarily for the CP form 1 to CP5, that is the compliance and reporting requirement under regulation 40B. And then on 19th May itself, there was another amendment to the insolvency resolution process of personal guarantors that was also notified on 19th of May 2025. Then on 26th May 25, another amendment was notified in CIRP regulations, and there are about 4 or 5 amendments in that amendment, which is called 4th Amendment. So let us first of all see what is the 3rd Amendment. In fact, for this 3rd Amendment, IBBI also had conducted an event where many insolvency professionals were collected, and they attended that event, and it was presented before all the insolvency professionals how now they are changing from CIRP 1 to 8 to CP 1 to 5 forms. So this 19th May 2025 regulation, which is regulation 40 capital B, this is called 3rd Amendment of CIRP regulations in 2005, which actually introduces a revamped regulation 40B, a totally revamped regulation 40B, which is focusing on timely and accurate filing of key forms like CP1 to CP5 instead of IP1 and CIRP1 to CIRP8. So those all forms are now replaced, and it is effective from 1st June 2025. So from today, it is applicable. It is applicable in this particular period that we are talking. So from 1st June to 2025, all that forms that we are required to file, that these are the forms which are required to be filled. This change, in fact, strengthens oversight and enforces accountability and brings sharper regulatory focus through penalties for delay and strict compliance. So in fact, we go back to 10th June 2025, when IBBI in fact issued a discussion paper on reducing the compliance by review of CIRP forms. And then after about a year, on 15th of June, on 19th of May 2025, these amendments were released. So then, like, this was the kind of discussions that actually continued. And in the meantime, IBBI was preparing a platform where all these forms can be filled, which can be auto-filled. As far as this past data is concerned, it will be auto-filled. So the basic features of these forms are that in case you say you fill one form, which is the CP1, and then when you fill second form, so all that which you have already filled will actually come to you as auto-filled part of the form. So that kind of structure IBBI was preparing, and once the IBBI actually was satisfied that they have now developed that technology, so therefore they notified it on 19th of May 2025. So presently, before 1st of June 2025, what was this regulation 40B? And there were 9 different forms. IP1, which was basically at the time of consent and declaration by the insolvency professional. Then CIRP1, this is details of the commencement of CIRP to public announcement. CIRP2, event from public announcement to COC constitutions and IRP confirmation. And then CIRP3, appointment of RP and actions up to IM issuance. Then CIRP4, form IM, issuance to invitation of resolution plans. CIRP5, summary of resolution plans received, decisions by COC and filing with the adjudicating authority. CIRP6 was reporting of specific events like interim finance, liquidation requests, etc. And CIRP7 was progress report when any timeline-bound activity is delayed. So this was something which was a monthly kind of a thing. Then CIRP8, which is reporting on the avoidance transaction. So now what was the issue before the IBBI? One, that it was a cumbersome filing schedule, because the filing dates were event specific. Like, for example, CIRP1, it was supposed to be within 7 days of the public announcement. Then CIRP2, within 7 days of the COC confirmation. CIRP5, after approval or rejection of the plan by adjudicating authority. So the dates were basically event specific. Now, in case any IP is handling, say, 4 or 5 assignments, so then in 1 month, there can be various events and there can be various dates. So it was very difficult for the insolvency professionals to keep a track of all the details. Also, the dates were missing. So therefore, in fact, the entire month could be some date for some kind of form. So therefore, even the duplicate data entry was also being filled. Similar information was being asked in different forms, and no centralized auto population system. But now the IBBI has developed a centralized auto population system, and whatever we had submitted earlier, like when we submit CP1, and then we see when we are submitting CP2, so whatever information that we have already filled in CP1, that actually will be auto-populated in CP2. That is a very big time-saving and also accuracy-assuring feature. Then overlapping date, in fact, was very, very cumbersome, and it actually, the feedback which was going to IBBI, that the insolvency professionals are feeling compliance fatigue and delays and penalties are being paid, and the multiple portals, some of the forms were also supposed to be submitted to IPA and IBBI, so there were duplications of the system. So therefore, in fact, this in discussion paper, which was dated 10th of June 2024, in fact, the objective was to reducing compliances by reviewing the CIRP form. The objectives were very clear, that it assures the accuracy, it assures the information which is required for the statistical or for the control or for the monitoring purposes, and also how to implement it and the implementation was basically developing that technology where auto-population is possible and everyone is getting figures, and finally that data is prepared for kind of taking a decision by IBBI. So this objective was to reduce compliance fatigue and also consolidate CIRP forms into fewer. It should be lesser. Instead of 9 forms earlier, now it is 5 forms. In fact, instead of 9, now it is 5. So we'll just come to the detail. What are the actual forms now which are applicable? And now, leaving 1 or 2 forms, it is the monthly requirement. Most of the forms are required to be filled on a subsequent month on or before 10th of every month. So the 10th of every month has become a very, very important date for an insolvency professional. Other than some of the event, for example, approval of resolution plan by the adjudicating authority, at that particular time, the IBBI expects that it should be informed to them within 7 days of such approval or for liquidating order. So that is something which actually must go to IBBI within 7 days. All other information can be filed before IBBI on the subsequent month on or before 10th of every subsequent month from the event date. In case the event has happened in June, any event has happened in June, then this form can be filled on or before 10th July. That is where the most of the forms are date specific. Now, when we are saying merging of the forms, there are forms which are merged. In fact, instead of saying that there are 5 forms, I would say there are 6 forms, because this is form number 3. CP3 is divided into 2 parts, A and B, and both are required to be filled at a particular event, event specific filling. Now, the IP1 and CIRP1 to CIRP8, it actually now merged into CP1 to CP5, and CP3 is divided into 2 parts, CP3A and CP3B. It actually introduces uniform deadlines to be filed by 10th of every month, and 500 rupees is the penalty for any delay in the submission. Now, we need to see presently what exactly are these forms and what is required to be filled up in these forms. So, Regulation 40 capital B, effective date 1st of June 2025, and the first form is CP1, and this covers a period from commencement of CIRP to the constitution of the COC, and it is supposed to be filed by the IRP. The filing date is on or before 10th day of the month after COC report is filed with adjudicating authority. Now, in this form CP1, it includes details of IRP, details of CD, the details of applicant who made this application, whether the 7th application, the Section 7 application, Section 9 application, or 10 application. It is there in this form. All the details are supposed to be filled up. Admission of the application by the adjudicating authority, then public announcement, then the details of the authorized representatives, if any, then taking over the management and control of the corporate debtor, receipt and verification of the claims, and the constitution of the committee of creditors. All this information is to be filled in CP1. And the date of filling the CP1 is when the constitution of this committee, when the committee constitution report is filed before the adjudicating authority. Then it is it has to be submitted on the subsequent month. Like in case I have filed my report to adjudicating authority on 3rd of June, I will file this CP1 on the next month on or before 10th. That is what is the requirement of CP1. Now let us see CP2. This is basically covers the period from COC constitution to issue of RFRP. Then it is supposed to be filed by RP. Again, it is supposed to be filed on or before 10th day of the month after RFRP is issued. After RFRP is issued. Now, the CP2, in fact, will have, in case we go through the form, the information that it wants from the RP. First of all, the details of the RP, because earlier we filled the details of the IRP in CP1. Now we need to fill the details of the RP and the details of the registered valuer, details in information memorandum. So what are the details that we have filled in the information memorandum? That is also required to be filed before the IBBI in CP2. And then expression of interest, RFRP and modification thereof, that is what is supposed to be filed to IBBI in CP2. Now, in case we move on to the CP3A, CP3A is the when application for resolution plan or liquidation or closure is filed before the adjudicating authority. Application, not the order. When the application is filed, IBBI definitely should get the information through CP3A. This is again on or before 10th of the following month. 10th of the following month, in case I have filed an application to adjudicating authority for approval of resolution plan or for liquidating the company or for closure of the liquidation process. In that case, it is required to be submitted in the month of July on or before 10th. Now, the information that is required to be submitted in CP3A, it includes the details of the resolution applicants, details of the approval or rejection of the resolution plans by the COC, details of the application filed before adjudicating authority for approval of resolution plan, and details of initiation of liquidation, if any, or any application is made. That is what is required in Form 3A. And then we move on to Form CP3B, which actually is to be submitted after the adjudicating authority passes the resolution plan or liquidation order or closure of the liquidation process. Then in that case, it is to be filed. This is the only form. This is the only form which is required to be filed within 7 days when the adjudicating authority passes an order for liquidating the company, for closing the liquidation process, or for CIR, for approval of the resolution plan. So then, in this case, the CP3B, what information is required in CP3B? The details of the resolution plan approved. So in 3CA, it was all the applicants. So now it is the detail of the resolution plan approved by the adjudicating authority or liquidation order or closure of the order. Then we move on to CP4, which talks about avoidance transaction filing or disposed of by adjudicating authority. This is required on or before 10th of the following month after application or order. So there are two triggers. One is the filing of the application. Second trigger is disposed of by AAA. So these are the two instances where this form is required in the subsequent month on or before 10th. And what exactly the information they want us to include, that information is the avoidance transactions details, preferential, undervalued, extortionate credit, fraudulent, underlying amount, date of reporting to adjudicating authority, order of the adjudicating authority on the application, if any. This is what is supposed to be reported in this form before we move to CP5, which is the monthly status. Monthly status update of CIRP progress, COC meeting, delay expenses. It is again by 10th of every month. So therefore, this includes updates on the status of the CIRP, details of the COC meeting held, updates on the litigation, details of expenses incurred, and reasons for delay, if any. That is what is required in the residual form. So this form CP5 is a residual form. It actually is supposed to be filed every month, for 10th of every month for the preceding month. So in case we have to file this form on or before 10th of July, where the entire June period would be put on record. All the events of month June will be put on record. This is what is the form, all these forms. And as I said, the 500 rupees is the penalty for filing per month. Action, like in case there is a perpetual non-filing, in case there is a perpetual inaccurate information, or there is a delay, and then there is a possibility. There is a possibility that the AFA can be refused. AFA can be. It is possible to not to get renewal of the AFA. So this is what is that we wanted to say, the transition from old CIP1 to the new CIRP forms, new CP forms, from 1 to, in fact, 3, for 1 to 6, whereas the 3A and 3B are 2, but this is now total 6 forms, and other than 1, which is a selective date based on the event, otherwise all the other forms are supposed to be filled up before 10th of every month by the RP or the IRP. So this is where, Ankit, we are as far as this part of the presentation is concerned. And before we move to the next part, which is the notification dated 26th of May, is there any conversation which is required from the members on this CP1 to CP5?
And we only have one question, which is from Mr. Hari Prasad. He says that is CP5 in addition to other CP forms. It's part of the whole process. I believe that yes, it's now an integration. So some of these forms have been
No,
there.
it's absolutely correct. What Mr. Hari Prasad is saying, the CP5. CP5 is in addition to all other forms, because the CP5 is supposed to be filed every month. It is supposed to be filed every month. And
there is no exception to it. Yeah, you will have to file the COC meetings. You will talk about the CRP progress. So that's a monthly update that you will give to IPPI, talking about or maybe submitting whatever documents are necessary.
This is like,
and then there are event based, of course, event based forms. But then yes, this will be the regular form.
So the CP5 is something that we have to fill every month on or before 10th, and it will cover the entire period. And every month, monthly reporting, you can call it monthly report. That monthly report is in CP5, and all others are benchmark forms. That if you reach benchmark A, then the form. If we reach benchmark B, then this is the form. In case you reach benchmark 3, then this is the form. So all other are based on the benchmark or actual status of the process. So this is what it is the form. Ankit, I think we can ask some more questions.
I'm not able to hear you.
So, see, there are some questions, I believe.
Yeah, I was not able to hear you in the middle. Maybe there was a problem with my internet connection. So I will move to the next one. So we have another question, which is when application for closure of liquidation has already filed, now how CP3A is to be filed?
So if the closure has already been filed, if the closure has already been filed before 30th of June, then there is no form required. Subsequently, there is no form required other than this CP5, because that's a monthly report. Otherwise, there is no requirement of CP1 to CP4. But then CP5 is...
This is a liquidation case, no? CP5 will be applicable for liquidation case also.
No, like see, liquidation
closure
case,
of liquidation, where he has filed for dissolution.
Then for dissolution, those are different forms. Those will be liquidation forms.
Liquidation form. We are only talking about the CRP form. Similarly, Ranjan ji is asking that no form to be filed for consent given. So these are forms where the CRP process is ongoing. For consent given, I believe the forms are anyways prescribed separately.
No, this IP1 is withdrawn. IP1 is not there now.
So no form for
now.
So no
consent is not
intimation.
required.
No intimation.
Already captured in assignment portal. That is what they are saying, that is already captured in assignment portal.
So whenever you give a consent, you just so there is no process for consent being reported to IPPI now. So that's been withdrawn, perhaps.
IP1 is withdrawn, yes.
So there's no step to report that I have given a consent for a case.
Yes, yes.
Then compliances with regard to IPA will be taken care by filing these forms, or there will be separate filing. It is always the same filing. There is no compliance with IPA which is separate anyways.
Yeah, see, these are the only compliances other than
These
your
forms,
PA and
these
other.
forms are also seen by your IPA, because when the IPA is renewing your AFA, they are verifying that you have completed all the compliances which are required under this under this system.
Yeah, yes, yes,
The
yes.
consent for liquidation assignment is required to be given in new regime. No, we don't see anything like that.
No, I don't think that is also required as of now.
So existing Form 7 is also replaced by CP5. That's the question from Mr. Siva Kumar.
Yes, existing Form 7 is also replaced. Existing Form 7 is merged into CP5. It is very clearly merged into CP5.
Then Mr. Ravi Bansal is asking whether status report, progress report will also be needed along with CP5. So CP5 will, of course, you will have to
CP5
talk.
has its own columns, and in case we fill up those columns, this is basically monthly update. This is a monthly update form. So in case we have monthly, so this includes updates on the status of the CIRP, details of the COC meetings held, updation on the litigation, details of the expenses incurred, reasons for delay. All this is to be handled in CP5. In CP5, all these details. But this is a monthly format.
So then there is a question that model timeline given in regulation 48 should also be complied in addition to these forms. I think this is what we talked about, that this form will talk about how and why you are not able to follow the timelines.
Yes, yes, yes. Because this is a monthly form. A monthly form, you will have to give all the reasons why it is being done and why it is so.
So wherever avoidance transaction is decided by AA after 5 or 7 years, should the IP still fill the form after he demits the office? So if the avoidance transaction is decided by the AA where the IP is no longer in control of that avoidance transaction, and the transaction is being pursued by the creditors or the resolution applicant, whatever the case might be, I don't think there can be any requirement for the RP to keep a track of that avoidance transaction for so many years.
So even the avoidance transactions during liquidation, the IBBI is very particular, and in some of the NCLTs are also very particular that you should dissolve the companies and don't sit on those companies forever. And in fact, they are saying that now there are many cases which are 7 years old and they are still in the liquidation, and the liquidations are not being concluded. So IBBI is, in fact, worried about this delayed process of liquidation closure. So this is where I feel that all the old liquidation cases should be completed by assigning of not readily realizable assets. So that is something which also IBBI wants everyone to kind of expedite the dissolution of the companies. Yes, Ankit.
The question is after plan application is filed before NCLT, is CP5 required? I think yes, it will be required because you're still in office as an RP,
Yes,
even if
yes,
the
yes.
plan is not approved by the
CP5
NCLT.
is required every month. CP5 is not specific to any event. It is required every month.
So we agree with you, Madanji, that yes, CRP7 is now it is part of CRP5. That is what we just confirmed as well. Whether monthly forms will continue to be filed on master utility portal of IPA, it may result into overlapping. Master utility of the IPA, I think that's what the question is from Arun Kumar ji, that the master utility portal of the IPA, what is required to be filed there and what is required to be filed on the IBBA website? I think that's the question that he's asking. That how will that overlap be addressed? Is that kind of going away? The
So now
IPA
there is
is
no overlapping as far as this information about a corporate debtor is concerned. That is supposed to be filed only in CP1 to CP5. So there is no duplication of the corporate debtor information. But if there is some information required by IPA, which is about the IP or about the IPA, IPE, so that is what actually is we are considering this, that this is required. So, so the specific question, Ankit, that you asked, Can you repeat that? What was the
Specific question that he asked was that there's some forms which are required to be filed with the IPA, which are with respect to
So
the.
with respect to the progress of the CIRP, there is no form which is required to be submitted to IPA now after 1st of June 2025. There may be various other forms which they are asking. That, of course, will depend upon what kind of information they're asking.
So then, question: in case where CRP period is over, resolution plan is submitted to NCLT and reserved for orders. Till now, we file Form 7. So we will file CP5. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Then I have filled form after issuing other RFRP, but no plan came, and again amended RFRP was issued and it was to be filed. It does not accept it and ask for payment as amended. I think you can always approach IBBI. We see that when we reach out to IBBI for any issues with the form filings, we get a very prompt reply. So emails are also available, and you can also call up IBBI. They are very receptive with respect to any issues that you are having with the forms. Since forms are applicable from 1 June, will first CP5 need to be filed by 10th July? That's an important question. So Sivakumarji is asking that if they are applicable from 1st June, we will be filing the first form by 10th July or after 30th June to 10th July, right?
Yeah. So again, can you repeat this question, because there was another phone call coming?
So 10th July, so the question is that these forms are effective from 1st June. So that would mean that the compliance for the month of June will be done by 10th of July.
Right.
And of course, if there is any other event happening, which are event-based forms, and those will be filed accordingly within 10 days of the.
One question is, like, in case you have any information about it, what about the existing cases which are at the some like kind of a stage which is after the resolution plan is submitted to NCLT? So what about those cases? So all these forms are supposed to be filled up, or it is not required?
So earlier we used to file CRP7 because we used to say that yes, there is a CRP7 was basically the idea behind it was that you're intimating delays to IBBI with respect to the any process which is delayed, so that maybe IBBI can do something about pushing those or give some kind of a report to NCLT or other agencies to push those agendas. Now I believe this number 5 is CP5 is what will be taking care of that. So we will have to file CP5 for this month by 10th of the next month, right?
And I think this Subo Music is also raising hands. Can we see him?
We'll just complete a few more questions because these are all important questions. So we can ask him to speak while I just read these questions and then filter them out. Subbu, Mr. Subbu, you can.
Sir, this is Subroto Ghosh here from Kolkata. Actually, I would like to ask that avoidant transaction, it is happened also in liquidation. Whether within 7 days, I am going to file one avoidant transaction in my liquidation case. Whether I have to file within 7 days for the effect as per this new norm.
So all the forms are required to be submitted.
Now, I am asking about the liquidation case. Because I am in liquidation, I am appealing for a arbitration transaction, application for arbitration within a few days. So should I file within 7 days this form? Because this is applicable for CIRP only.
This is applicable only to CIRP, and for liquidation also. For liquidation also, there are regulations which are coming.
Okay, that is going to come.
Also.
Let's wait for that something.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Let's wait for that. Yes.
And IPA, we are not going to submit any report monthly, weekly, or quarterly to now, apart from this.
Yes, these reports, whatever is mentioned here as CP1 to CP5, these are supposed to be submitted to IBBI only. IBBI and the IPA will definitely have an access to that information.
Okay, so there is no separate for IPA. Okay,
right,
thanks.
Right.
Thanks, sir.
Yes.
So this is one important question with respect to this transition that is happening to the new system. So the query is that if an event happened in the month of May, which warrants the submission of some forms, So those forms will have to be filed still, because if we are saying that these new forms are applicable from 1st June onwards, then there might be a possibility of a window in May where an event happened and the form in the earlier regime has not been filed so far.
So in case there is no form filed in the earlier regime, then I believe this this IP will must file this CP1 to CP5, and whatever is the delay, he will have to submit a penalty of 500 rupees per month. So that is something that everyone will have to do in case there are some cases where they have not filled up all these forms.
No, I was saying that in the month of May, let's say May, some event happened and form required to be filed under the earlier regime, specific form. So then that will be, of course, shifted. That will be still required to be filed, right? Because the effective date of these new forms is 1st June.
Yes, effective date is 1st June.
So and let's say an event happened on 29th May. Of course, these new forms are not applicable. And if the earlier regime warranted a form to be filed, the earlier form for the event that happened, then that has to be filed today.
That has to be filed, Ankit. So this transition period, I think this is some question that actually should have been raised. I still do not recall if any of the participant has this information. What about the transition? What about the existing cases of the CIRP? Whether it is applicable to all the existing cases, and if it is applicable, then how all this information will be filled up, and whether this all this late filing will be applicable or not. This I remember. That the IPPI said in that event that for the first few months there will not be any penalty. So in case there are some cases which are going on, you have to fill all this information, and then there will not be any penalty. And if any other person who is attending will have some better information, I would in fact request him to raise hand. So we actually will ask him to provide this information, authentic information, to all the participants.
So there's also this opinion from Mr. Hari Prasad that the cost disclosure forms and the relationship disclosure forms, which we are currently filing with IPA, so that also they will continue, right? So that's what I think. There was a question which came in earlier, that what happens to these forms which are filed with the IPA. So this will continue, in my opinion. The relationship disclosure and cost disclosures will continue.
Yeah.
I think that's clarified.
Relationship disclosure will continue.
Yes.
So any participant who is having this information about the transition, all those cases, I think Mr. Shamsher CS can be given the permission to speak, and we only need your indulgence in case you can say that what the IBBI clarified on that event, what about the existing cases, and all these forms are supposed to be filled up for all the existing cases or not.
Yes, sir, so far I remember in that meeting, they clarified that for 3 months, sir. For 3 months period is the transition period where the earlier matters will continue in the similar form, sir.
So all the earlier matters will have to be filled in CP1 to CP4 or 5, wherever the stage have gone.
Yes, up to CP7, sir. Earlier matters will have to be filled in the earlier forms only. So far, I have remembered and I have noted down what they have clarified in that meeting, sir.
So CP form, why not up to CP8? Because see, there are buffet applications which are pending, and then it has to come into the new forms, I believe.
Yes, that manager was there now, who was on the chair. He clarified that earlier matters, 3 months is the transition period, and after 3 months, all things will be regularized.
So in the transition period, we are all supposed to fill up all the existing assignments detail in CP1 to CP5.
Up to May, whatever matters we are holding up to May, all those will have to be in the same form as CP1 to CP8, sir. What I remember, sir.
So any other person would like to confirm what Mr. Shamsher is saying? And like, what was the clarification which was given by IBBI, whether all this transition period, all the existing assignments, all the CP1 to CP5 will be submitted without, of course, any additional fee? That's what I remember, that they said that no fee will be charged for the existing assignments.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For 3 months, they told no additional fee will be charged, even for this CP1 to CP5 also, sir.
So any other person who has this authentic information can raise hand. Samshedji, thank you, but still I would like any other person to confirm, because this is a very important, because everyone, whosoever is an audience today, they'll start filling up the form CP1 to CP5 for all the existing cases. Any other person who can confirm this, whether this transition, Ravi Bansalji, can we, Ankit, can we ask him to speak?
I've done the Raviji, please, you can unmute yourself.
Already given in the circular. If you download the circular, I think it is clarified there itself.
I think better, Ankit, while we are talking, we can download the circular and we can actually do that immediately.
Right. Basically, let me check it. Let me check it. देखा अपने पास था ना वो जो हमने 26. I'm doing that. I'm reading it. वो circular 26 तारीख का निकाला था हमने. नहीं IBI की वेबसाइट 26 तारीख 26/5.
Okay, so we, in fact, we are like in the meantime, we continue with the couple of other amendments, and Raviji and Ankit, I think we can take out that circular. From
I have the circular, it's a 21-page circular. So I will just go through it quickly and share the view with it. In the meantime, you can continue with the
yes. So the last 10 minutes we will use on this. So good, Raviji. So we, in fact, we will collectively handle, because this is very important to guide everyone. So we now move on to the notification, which was on 26th of May regarding 4th amendment to CIRP regulations. And in this regulation, there are major changes which are regarding the flexibility and transparency in the resolution process. The major changes by way of notification on 26th May 2025 was introducing major structural and process-oriented changes aimed at increasing flexibility in writing resolution plans and ensuring fair treatment to dissenting creditors, and strengthening the role of key stakeholders like interim finance provider. One, that they are now they are saying that the interim finance provider is also a stakeholder. Number two, there is some clarification which was required for the amount which is to be paid to the dissenting creditors as per the resolution plan. Number three, some flexibility is now given to the IRP and the RP and the in the COC members regarding inviting the resolution plans, and also some kind of greater transparency and accountability in enabling the committee of creditors to make better informed decisions in a dynamic resolution environment. So the responsibility of understanding whether a resolution plan is compliant to law or not, now it is actually made a collective responsibility of the RP as well as the COC. So therefore, now these are good, important amendments we need to see one by one. As far as this discussion paper which came on 4th February 2025, and within 100 days, finally, after taking the public opinion, the fourth amendment was notified on 26th of May, and it is basically the transformation of the policy ideas, and then the core themes reaffirmed, and the commitment to reform. So this is what the IBBI actually did. Also in the press release, the IBBI in fact focused and also kind of reaffirmed their commitment that wherever they get a feedback, and wherever they find a solution, they will do it immediately and in a fast pace. If the feedback is that in most of the cases, the resolution plans, in fact, there are different businesses, especially in real estate, there are different assets, there are different businesses, and in case the different resolution plans are invited, it will actually maximize the value. So that is the feedback which the IBBI think, that if the COC is considering this as viable and a kind of way for maximizing the recovery, so the COC has the power to invite resolution plans right at the first stage, dividing the business into one or more parts. Then the other part, which is the other, in case this IBBI is getting a feedback that there are some instances where some of the resolution plans were not even presented before the committee of creditors on the pretext that the resolution plans were not compliant and it was not compliant to IBC. Then finally it actually went into various kind of litigations. The resolution process delayed. So therefore the IBBI said that now this will be the collective responsibility of the IP and the ICOC, whether a resolution plan is compliant or not. So therefore, the insolvency professional will actually submit the resolution plans, even compliant and non-compliant, before the committee of creditors. However, the committee of creditors will finally consider only those resolution plans which are compliant. So that is where the responsibility of identifying the non-compliant resolution plans is now collective. It is not only and only on the insolvency professional. So that is where the feedback, which actually led to a lot of litigations in the past. So what the IBBI is saying, IBBI is trying, wherever there is a possibility of reducing litigation, wherever there is a possibility of reducing manipulation, wherever there is a possibility of reducing timeline, immediate actions are being taken. Immediate actions are being taken after taking the public opinion and the public feedback. So now this particular discussion paper, which was on 4th of February 2025, there were basically 4 things in that discussion paper. 1, enabling resolution in parts to avoid delays and preserve asset value. Enhance transparency by presenting all resolution plans to COC. Involving interim finance providers meaningfully in CIRP and providing greater clarity on payment treatment of dissenting creditors. So this was also a feedback to IBBI that why interim finance is not available in most of the cases, because the interim financer has no knowledge about the assets of the company. Once he gives the finance, thereafter he struggles for getting the information. He struggles for understanding where this process is going on. So therefore, now the interim finance provider can write in the agreement that he would be invited in all the subsequent meetings. And if that agreement is approved by the committee of creditors, that means that the interim finance provider will be able to attend all the subsequent meetings, and he will be assured about the process and about the security of his money. So therefore, interim finance may be now available. Maybe the financiers are feeling comfortable now. That's what is the change in the regulations. So the part-wise regulation, as I said, that we can see the insertion of regulation 18, sub-regulation 5, and it was basically regulation 18 is how the meetings of the committee of creditors are conducted. So earlier there is no mention of interim finance provider attending COC meeting, but the discussion paper in fact said that it would be possible. So finally this regulation was notified. So now on regulation 18 sub-regulation 5, what it says, the committee may direct the RP to invite the providers of interim finance to attend as observers without voting rights such meetings of committee as the committee may decide. So now this is a clause which can be used for attracting interim finance providers. Interim finance providers can stipulate that if I provide finance, I would be attending all the meetings without any voting right, and I would be observer. I would not be having any right to speak or provide my opinion. But that in case that agreement is accepted by the COC and it is executed by the RP on the directions of the COC, then on all subsequent meetings, that interim finance provider will be invited. He would see the progress. He would see that his money is safe. That is what is the very, very important amendment for making the availability of interim finance easier. Then is the insertion of regulation 36 capital A, and this is the resolution invitation for part-wise regulation. Now, earlier provision 36A prior to amendment, what it said that the 36A, in fact, regulation 36A governs the process of inviting expression of interest. from prospective resolution applicants. Under Regulation 36A, sub-regulation 1, the RP was required to invite expression of interest only for the corporate debtor as a whole. There was no provision allowing the RP to issue invitation for resolution plan for individual assets or part of the corporate debtor. But now, in the discussion paper dated 4th of February 2025, it was discussed in detail and public information, public feedback was also received. And now the amended regulation 36A, sub-regulation 1A. Now it says the resolution professional may, with the approval of committee, issue invitation for expression of interest for submission of resolution plan for corporate debtor as a going concern, or for one or more of its assets, or for both simultaneously. That means even the first invitation for expression of interest can be for the company as a whole, can be for company as a whole plus some assets, can be all the assets of the company, 2 or 3 assets differently, different resolution plans are invited, and we can even have simultaneously. Simultaneously means we are inviting 3 resolution plans or 4 resolution plans, one for business A, one for business B, one for business C. Says other option, we can invite 2 resolution plans, one for main business assets and one for non-core assets. Now, another option, we can invite 4 resolution plans, one for project A of the real estate in Noida, one for project B of the real estate in Gurgaon. So that is the flexibility. That is the flexibility which has been given by IBBI for resolving the cases, for maximizing the value for the creditors, for avoiding the litigations, for generating interest in smaller assets, larger participation by public. So this is where it is important to understand, like, this flexibility is very important. Now, the regulation 36B is also omitted, because in what was before, in regulation 36B, there was a condition. Now, presently, that condition is removed. Now, what was that condition? Let us see in regulation 36B. The condition was that if the RP does not receive a resolution plan in response to the request under this regulation, he may, with the approval of committee, issue request for a resolution plan for sale of one or more assets of the corporate debtor. So now this is deleted because there is an amendment in section 36A. There is a enabler. There is an enabler in 36A where it says that at the first time, the expression of interest can be invited in parts. So therefore, now there is no need for 36B. Earlier, first, it was the company as a whole. And in case no resolution plan is received in that response, then this particular 36B 6A was applicable. So now the sub-regulation 6A is deleted. So now the discussion paper was also it was clarification, like the role of the RP on this is very clear. It is omitted now. Now, the other part which need to understand is regulation 38(1)(b). The regulation 38(1)(b) is basically one proviso is being inserted. It is already a regulation which says that the dissenting creditors will have to be paid in priority. Now, this proviso, in fact, you see now the priority. So there are various instances which the feedback has gone to IBBI that in some of the resolution plans, the dissenting creditors are getting substantial amount. And in case we have to give them this substantial amount before any other creditor is paid, then it becomes technically viable. It becomes commercially inviable. So therefore, this particular enabler is now given, and this earlier it was said that they would be given in priority. Now this is the proviso which is given. It says that the where a resolution plan provide for payment in stages, where a resolution plan provides for a payment in stages, the financial creditor who did not vote in favor of the resolution plan shall be paid at least pro rata and in priority over financial creditors who voted in favor of the plan in each stage. That means that if a resolution plan says that the total resolution amount will be paid in 24 months, and in 24 months there are installments, and then in that case what happens? The creditors who voted in favor of the resolution plan, they may not get for first few months because first dissenting creditors are being paid. However, but this clarification says that if the amount is being paid to dissenting creditors again in installments, so for each installment they will be paid in priority. So if there is an installment of 100 crore which is to be paid after 1 month, so when that time will come, so the first disbursement will be made to dissenting financial creditor on pro rata basis. Then the other creditors will be paid, and subsequently on the other installment, second installment, third installment, fourth installment, same way that the first disbursement will go to dissenting creditor on pro rata basis, and then to the other creditors who voted in favor of the resolution plan. So then again we are saying and the other part is also very important, which is the regulation 39 sub regulation 2, which is actually giving a responsibility is shifted to COC, that what exactly the amended regulation is saying. The resolution professional shall submit to the committee all resolution plans. RP will submit to the committee all resolution plans along with the details of non-compliant plans. That means the RP will first of all identify compliant and non-compliant plans, also with the reasons why they are non-compliant, and then along with the following avoidance transactions, and then it will be submitted to the committee. That is what is the regulation, and now the regulation is amended. Amended regulation is like this. Then the amended regulation 39 sub-regulation 3 says the committee shall. So the first was the responsibility of the RP. Now regulation 39 sub-regulation 3 says the responsibility of the COC. It says the committee shall evaluate the resolution plans received under sub-regulation 1, under this regulation where the RP has submitted all the resolutions, which comply with the requirement of the code and regulations made thereunder. Because now the committee will only evaluate those resolution plans which comply with the requirement of the code and regulations as per the evaluation matrix, and then record its deliberation on the feasibility and viability and vote on all such resolution plans. This is what is very important, that the responsibility of evaluating a resolution plan only which complies with the requirements of the code, it is now collective. First RP will do, then the committee of creditors will do. It is not exclusively on the RP, it is now collective. So that's very important. So we actually will quickly go to the PIRP in this insolvency resolution process for personal guarantors regulations. There is only a small amendment when there is no repayment plan. When there is no repayment plan, the regulations, in fact, or the code was not providing for any meeting. Now, in case there is no repayment plan which is received by the RP, then the RP can call a meeting of the creditors, and that meeting, in that meeting, the regulation 17B has been added, and it says where no repayment plan has been prepared by the debtor under section 105 of the code, the resolution professional shall file an application with the approval of the creditors before the adjudicating authority, intimating the non-submission of a repayment plan and seek appropriate directions. So then the creditors will give a direction to the RP whether to file an application for closure of the process or not. That is where this the process goes on. I think, Ankit, you can see in case the circular, we can clarify to all the audience regarding that. Yes. You are not, you are mute, Ankit.
Oh, sorry, my bad. So I was saying that for the CRPs which are admitted post 1st June, it is very simple. They have to follow the new forms. There is no confusion about it, and we were also not confused about it. With respect to those CRPs that are ongoing as on 1st June 25, the idea is that the forms stand replaced, and if somebody has not filed the earlier forms, they have to file the new forms for the period which was prior to 1st June. So example, if CRP 1, 2, 3, or 4 was required to be filed for the period prior to 1st June 25 and that was not filed. So now the RP will be required to file the new forms which are replacing these forms. And there's a full-fledged guideline given that which form has replaced which form. So you can file the new form, the CP forms, for the period prior to 1st June as well. And then, of course, it says that 3A, 3B, and 4 will continue to be required. And at the same time, it says that CP5, that is something that you will file by 10th of July 25, which is for the period of June 25, and thereafter till the conclusion of CRP. So this way, this is the transition mechanism suggested for the existing cases. For CRPs which are closed before 31st May 25, for such cases, the forms which remain pending as on date, they will have to be completed by 30th September. Regulation 7 is very clear that there will be no levy of delayed filing of forms, if any, during this initial quarter of July to September 25. But after this, there will be, of course, the penalties or the fees will apply. So this
So
is
that
the
means in all the existing cases, what I need to understand is CP3A, CP3B, and CP4 are supposed to be filled.
Yeah.
In all the existing cases, CP3A, CP3B, and CP4 are supposed to be filled. And
Yes.
in some cases, CIRP1 or CIRP2 or CIRP3 or 4 is not filled up, then in that case, now it will be CP1 only or CP2 only.
So somebody who has filled these already, they don't need to do anything. But somebody who has not filled them and they were required to be filled, they will have to fill in the new forms, even for the earlier period. And in case this of course arises or the event arises thereafter, then the new forms are anyways applicable. This is the idea.
So I think it is clarifying. So for everyone, for existing, I think Pankaj Tibrewal want to say something, and he has a question.
I have allowed Pankaj, you can unmute.
One more point, Ankit ji, please refer para 6, wherein it's clearly said that from 1st June onward, all existing form has been discontinued, which means there is no question of earlier forms being filed. Everything has to be done in the new forms only.
Exactly, Pankaj. That's also what they have further said in 7, that if you not file any of the earlier forms, then you have to use the new forms. Earlier forms will not be available.
Right.
Perfect. We also have,
yes,
we also have Mr. Maharaj Kumar.
Yeah, we should take him also.
You can speak, unmute and speak. In the meantime, Mr. Ranjan can speak. Yes,
am I audible now?
you're audible.
Yes.
Good afternoon to both of you. Like, it is always delighted to have you and answering the questions. Actually, I have got one small query, which may not be related to this. Webinar.
Can we take it offline, sir? In that case,
Sir, just give me a spare 1 second. See, what about suppose I have given a consent, okay, and the matter has been settled or dismissed. So, do I need to inform to IBBI for my earlier CP1 file?
So I believe it is only for the purpose of statistics that this information was being collected by IBBI. And in case there is a case which gets settled, I think it will be better that an email is sent that I submitted IP1 at that time, and however that case is settled, it will be advisable to send an email to IBPI.
Okay, sir, great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because in calculating 10 of the CIRP, that might affect at later point in time.
Not exactly, because just giving a consent, that actually does not mean that you are carrying on an assignment.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
That is not correct, because that is only for their statistic purpose that they were collecting. But I think in this CP1 to CP5, there is no requirement of giving information to IBPI regarding any consent which is being given by us.
Great, sir.
Yes.
Sir, Ranjan also wants to say
Sir,
something.
my question is that whether earlier the dissenting financial creditors who actually was entitled to get the liquidation value as per the section 53 in resolution plan. So is it still the same liquidation value they are getting, and how they're dissenting, that if they would abstain or they will reject the plan, that will determine their dissension, no?
So dissenting creditors are those who have not voted for the resolution plan, but the resolution plan has been approved by more than 66% voting share. So that means that the dissenting creditors can be anyway between 34% or slightly less than 34% to 0%. So all these are dissenting creditors who have not voted for the resolution plan, and as per the resolution plan, they are supposed to have their share in whatever value of security they have. Of course, that matter is Amit Metallics is still pending before Supreme Court, but whatever is offered to them in the resolution plan, that will be paid pro rata along with the other creditors who have voted for the resolution plan. Pro rata means like if there are 20 installments, then they will also be paid in 20 installments. So earlier, the law was made in such manner that even if the other creditors are being paid in 20 installments, the dissenting financial creditors was getting their payment in the first few months, and thereafter those who in fact voted for the resolution plan was being paid. So this clarification by way of adding a proviso in regulation 38, the IBPI has clarified that this priority doesn't mean priority. It can be paid pro rata in the case of installments where the installments are being paid. Yes, Ranjan.
Sir, are they entitled for the liquidation value of the?
They are still entitled for the liquidation value, but what I said is how much is the liquidation value, whether the priority of charge and the value of security interest will be considered or not. That is something which is not yet decided by the Supreme Court. So therefore, presently, the law is very clear that they will get the liquidation value, but how the liquidation value due to them would be calculated, that is presently pending before the Supreme Court.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right.
So I believe we have had a very, very interactive session today, and thank you all the participants, like always, to make this learning process for all of us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. This is our way of learning. Thank you.